initially, I was very skeptical of homeschooling. So the first things that I began to talk about at homeschool conventions were, I called it the skeptical homeschool dad or the homeschool agnostic.
Yes,
or the reluctant. Yeah, we went through several different descriptions of it. But I was definitely concerned. After you read a book about homeschooling to figure out how to educate Ty, knowing that he had sort of a borderline learning disability, our grand plan was to put him in 5-year public school. But that didn't work out. Long story short, you got all excited about homeschooling after reading that book. I certainly didn't know anybody that homeschooled. I almost felt like we were embarking on an experiment that had never been done. I didn't have any examples of what it looked like and what the end result was, but I trusted you. And I knew at the end of the day, you would be a way better teacher for Ty than any school or any public or private school would be. So I reluctantly agreed and said, all right, let's try it a year.
And also, you said to me this rousing endorsement, but I really did appreciate the fact that he trusted me. He said, and besides that, you can't mess up a kid in kindergarten too much because they learn their colors and their numbers.
Colors and numbers. And then lo and behold, Ty was colorblind. So only half of that became true. Yeah, I was real reluctant. And we did it that one year. And I mean, I had no great vision of us ever doing it through high school. I would have thought that would have been extreme and crazy.
Yeah, the kind of the in vogue thing is if you did it for more than a couple of years was to do it through the 3rd grade.
Yeah, but we really thought and prayed about what should we do for next year. And I know we ran into big challenges with science, with math, with foreign language. But in every step of the way, God provided some friend, some co-op, something. And now there are so many co-ops, we certainly would not have sweated it at all. And as we went along, we did see some examples. So we saw some results of the experiment, and we noticed these families were just closer than the ones that sent their kids to school, even private school, good private Christian schools, because the kids just became a little bit more peer dependent and peer focused. And I love how close our family was. And like the grandboys just said, the flexibility of it, I thought was great. And they were just growing. They were growing spiritually. They were growing physically, obviously. And we were just staying close. Those are the things that really kept me going year after year after year.
One of the things you talk about now, and we'll spend a few minutes on this, is the danger of social media to girls. So tell us how you landed on that topic.
Yeah, so the way that sort of evolved is I began speaking at homeschool conventions about the reluctant homeschool dad, and then I realized as more and more families and more teenagers were getting access to the internet, there was such a abundance of pornography there, and the pornographers were looking for our sons and our daughters, and they were aggressively tricking them into sites where they would be lured into it. And I just thought that was awful. The companies were doing nothing about it. Apple, Google, they were just totally ignoring it because they were focused on building their empires. The Christian community was real concerned about it from the early days. And there weren't even filters in those early days. So I started speaking about how to raise G-rated boys in an R-rated world. And really, it should have been triple X-rated because that's really what it was. I'm happy to say, though, that now those companies have finally woken up and have done things about it. Their parental controls, their filters, their ways to help. None of them are perfect, but it's better than nothing. But some of my talks, women would come up to me and say, well, what about daughters? And I said, what do you mean? And I heard all kind of stories from these women about their daughters that they noticed a subtle change in their demeanor and their attitude and even in their characters. Some of them were becoming angry, more depressed, and they thought at first when they began to see this in their daughters that it was just normal, puberty and the normal changes of life that people do go into, and then they realize, no, there's another factor here. And they realized it was social media and the impact it was having.